All right, I'll call this meeting to order at 7:03 PM. First item on the agenda,
Yeah,
approval of minutes.
Brad, if you could speak up a little bit, I'm having a little bit of trouble hearing you at full volume.
Okay. First item on the agenda, approval of minutes from April 29. Is that volume okay?
Use your mic turned
Yes.
on.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
You're welcome. Did anybody, I received no amendments or suggestions for edits on the April 29 minutes. Did anybody have anything for those? All right, does the chair hear a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Discussion. Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Those opposed, no. We have to do it by roll because we have a member on Zoom. Brad Hubbard Nelson,
Aye.
Fran Cummings.
Aye.
Paul Kirshen.
Aye.
Chair says aye. The minutes are approved. Does the chair hear unanimous consent to push or table consideration of May 6 minutes to June 10? Chair hears no objection. We'll move on to the next item of business, nomination and election of next Climate Action Committee Chair and Clerk. Anybody want to make any nominations for chair?
Well, if Brad Dye is running, I would nominate him as chair. It's the kind of thing which we didn't talk about ahead of time. Of course, we can't talk about that stuff.
Second.
Oh, no, but I think Bob, he's the one.
Yes. I'm going for what?
You're about to get nominated as chair because you showed up late to our meeting. Please. So we have one nomination. Does anybody else wish to make any other nomination?
Karen, will it be nominated?
No.
No, okay.
Unless you want to.
Not the moment.
Hearing none, we'd be in line for a vote. Or well, we'd be in line for discussion. Is there any discussion?
I think this past year has been excellent, so that's my consideration and support, but he promised not to make this work too hard. And keep it focused like this. I've been very happy with this, the way the committee's been going.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Since I jumped in the middle of this, I hope the discussion is about maintaining your chairmanship of the committee. I fully am in support of that. I think it's been a highly efficient, well-organized, well-prepared chairmanship every meeting. So thank you for your efforts. Makes it easier on all of us.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, we would be in line for a vote. All those in favor of Brad Dye as chair for the coming committee year, please signify by saying aye. Those opposed, we have to do it by roll because we have somebody on Zoom. Those opposed, please say no. Brad Hubbard Nelson.
Aye.
Bob Shatton.
Aye.
Aye.
Ken Cummings, Paul.
Aye.
Chair says no. It passes 4-1. Do we have any nominations for clerk?
I would prefer not to be the clerk, and I think clerk is a really good thing for someone who would be chair at some point in the future. And especially if someone's self-nominated. And what I found I tend to take about 3 hours to put together the minutes for a 2-hour meeting, just because I go through the video and at some speed and just try to get as much on there. It can be faster than that. I think a lot of people probably faster than me, just as information. Now, the people who aren't at the meeting.
They're fair game.
Are fair game as well.
I would say I think it should be one of the two of you.
I'm gonna say I'm not the best note taker. If there's some nice AI tools that can summarize. That would be helpful.
Yeah, we've been, the practice that I believe we've been using, I've used it, I think Brad is using it too. So we get the AI summary, and that does need to be improved upon. every month. It can't be relied on. But then we also get the video. So you can look at the notes, watch the video. If you want to do your own notes, you can, but I never took notes when I was responsible for minutes, and I just used the AI summary plus rewatching the meeting.
I think that the most important thing to do during the meeting is take note of the votes made during the
Yeah.
meeting. Because the AI summaries don't capture explicit votes made, but otherwise, I think it's pretty good. I mean, we have the recordings that like you can put the YouTube recordings into an AI system of your choice and even get a more detailed summary than what Zoom produces.
Okay, great, well, I guess I'll volunteer. So I don't think the people who aren't here would appreciate it.
So Fran has nominated Bob and Bob has self-seconded. Further discussion, or are there other nominations? Hearing none, further discussion.
Brad, on the nomination.
I just wanna make the point that, the other people that aren't here would be also an excellent job, excellent candidate.
Yeah, just, you know,
And it's also, you know, to figure out a sharing arrangement, what doesn't work is not to have a clerk. I don't think that works.
Yeah, I would say that I think that the note taking for the last year has been excellent. Except for the few meetings where the clerk was not the one taking the notes and it fell to that other guy. It's
okay,
me,
oh, okay.
open. So thank you for your clerking. Further discussion? Hearing none, we would be in line for a vote. All those in favor of Bob Shatton being our clerk for the coming year, starting with our virtual town hall or our virtual workshop next week. So not responsible for that, starting next week. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. We'll do it by roll again. Brad.
Abstain.
Abstains. Fran. Paul.
Aye.
Chair votes yes. It is 4-0 unanimous. Congratulations, Mr. Clerk.
Thank you.
All right, next item on the agenda is,
The workshop doesn't need to have any.
it doesn't need to have note form minutes. We are responsible for submitting a set of minutes.
Oh, is that right?
Yes, but you'll see a model of that sometime soon because I will read the minutes from last week.
Just make
It's
sure.
very brief. It's gonna be like a 2 or 3 sentence thing.
Okay.
You said, what is the date on the workshop?
It's
Thursday next week.
28th.
It's all Zoom, that one,
I've got it, and what time does it start?
7,
7 to 8?
Yep.
Okay, it's actually on my calendar, and where,
8:30 probably
and
actually,
where are we having that?
Zoom.
Zoom only.
Zoom,
Yeah,
okay.
So with the Zoom only meeting where there is no chat between people, it's not even really a forum. In any sense, there's no, is there?
it's a quorum if a quorum of us are there. Yeah.
But they can't talk to each other, so there's no discussion of any sort. In my,
I think when you post an agenda, which I believe Brad is doing for those, the clerk's office appreciates
okay,
receiving some sort of document, and then it also eliminates questions of people saying, where are the minutes from that
yeah,
meeting?
fair.
Next item on our agenda item number 3, this is page 7 in the meeting packet, proposed schedule of meetings for coming board year or committee year. So I apologize that we could not land on an easy calendar that worked every single month. There were too many conflicts, too many holidays, but the best that I could muster is to maintain third Wednesday at 7 o'clock with a goal of having a hard cap of 90 minutes on those meetings. And then first Mondays from 1 to 2, do a power hour like we've done the last 2 months. The exceptions on that would be, for those Monday meetings, if we have a federal holiday on the first Monday, which happens July 4th and, Labor Day, we will have our meeting the week before. And February, March, and April and May of our third Wednesdays, we'll do those on the fourth Wednesday instead. That's a slight change from what's in the packet. I've learned this morning that we are probably going to have town meeting on May 19th, so that would work for us to have our monthly meeting then. So we would push February, March, April, and May to the fourth Wednesday of the month.
Oh, that's,
As far as I can tell, that was not a conflict for anybody. There are isolated dates where we may lose our liaison, or we may lose one member for a Monday meeting, but it looked like everybody could make it every day. Nobody reported any conflicts. Discussion on this plan?
I think, pretty good plan.
So again, it's one time a month we're coming in on the Monday.
Yes, we'll be here Monday lunch, 1 o'clock on the first Monday of the month, except for when the first Monday is a holiday, and then we'll do the week before.
I think it's a good schedule. We have to vote on it or anything like that?
We don't need to have a vote. If somebody wants to make a motion, we can, but we can do this by consensus, I believe. Is there any objection to this schedule? Is there any member of the public or town staff that wants to opine? All right, then that will be our plan. We will keep our next meeting June 10th, which is the second Wednesday. That was a prior arrangement to avoid the 17th. Our next Wednesday night meeting is going to be June 10th, and then we'll pick up with this calendar after that.
What was wrong with the 17th?
It's Bunker Hill Day. I didn't want to have it on Bunker Hill Day.
I have a question. Do we have a practice where someone sends out calendar invitations so that it's on everybody's calendars?
I can do that if it's helpful.
We haven't done that as practice, but we can.
I'd like to propose it.
Okay.
I mean,
I'd second that. That's helpful for me because like, for instance, somehow tonight's meeting wasn't on my calendar because you sent out all the package. I saw it.
So this is the opportunity for the 5 of us that are here to get this into our calendars right now. We're gonna lock these in. No trips to Cleveland.
Please.
Well, if a trip has to be taken, a trip has to be taken.
Yeah.
And
Do we take a vacation? Do we get a vacation month?
No. But you get a vacation when the planet stops warming. How about that?
all right. There you go.
That's heavy responsibility there.
Forget vacations.
All right, next item on the agenda item number 4, the deputy town manager's report, which is attached to your meeting packet, pages 8 through 13. Megan?
Good evening, everyone. Can everyone hear me okay?
yes,
Okay, great. Thank you. As you can see, I have a written report in your packet this evening that highlights some of the priority projects that we're working on in town. I'm always open to feedback on these. I feel like sometimes I'm putting in a lot of background information and I'm repeating the same kind of information month after month. I think it is a helpful record, but if anyone has any thoughts on the format of these, I am open to adjusting it. So as you can see in the report, we are highlighting some of our key funded projects that we're working on. The first one in the list is MVP 2.0. Some of the main efforts here is that we have gone through a procurement process. This is for those that haven't, taken a look at this. This is a grant funded project, and part of the grant is to identify a planning vendor. So for that first step, we did a request for quotes through our procurement office, and we have identified a planning vendor, and the planning vendor is going to be Weston and Sampson, the same firm that's doing our climate action and resilience plan. So we're hoping with the same team, we will be able to benefit from, the work that we're doing. As we've been talking about this effort, the hope was to use this grant to even go deeper in community engagement and try some different strategies to connect with folks across the community that might not be the ones that are showing up to our forums or, logging on to our forums or specifically targeted in our focus groups. So we have identified the planning vendor, and we're working on contracting with them. And at our last meeting, Bob stepped forward to be kind of the point person on the committee for this. So I've emailed Bob some information, and we're gonna, now that town meeting is over, kind of start picking this effort up in earnest and look forward to identifying our community liaisons and kind of working through this pretty prescribed grant project. And if, what is this all for? Identifying, doing more community outreach, trying something new, identifying concerns in the community about resilience, but also it ends with a $50,000 seed project. So using that input to design a program for Concord is the second half of this. So we're looking forward to moving that one forward. The second project I have outlined here is the Suasco Climate Collaborative. You've all heard me talk about this one. Concord is the lead grant awardee for this, working closely with MAPC and ORS. For this one, we have been doing a lot of outreach. We've had focus groups. We have had a well-attended community meeting at Harvey Wheeler in Concord. We've met with our steering committee, which includes municipal partners and folks from regional watershed organizations, environmental organizations throughout the watershed. And this is all really we also did a request for information from vendors, from firms and consultants to learn more about how to tackle this next phase. And so this is all kind of leading towards the bulk of this grant, which is also through MVP, is to hire a consultant to do a vulnerability assessment for the watershed using our existing data. And this is a big chunk of our, $450,000 grant. This planning vendor piece is $200,000, and Concord is leading the procurement for this effort. So we've been having a lot of conversations about how we're gonna, what's gonna be in the scope of work and what is the criteria that we'd be using to evaluate proposals. So on our side of things, on the administrative side, Shannon and I have, worked with all these partners and have finalized the request for proposals. And that has gone to our procurement office, I think, today. So looking forward to, kind of seeing the results of that effort. I also want to plug, as I said, our last community meeting was in Concord. Our next community meeting is going to be in Ashland at the Ashland Public Library on June 25th. So we're hoping to have some representation there, and we should have a flyer ready very soon. So we'll get that out to you. Next, we have the decarbonization roadmap.
I'm sorry.
Oh,
Can I interrupt for just a moment? So June 25th, can folks check their calendars and see if you can make a trip to Ashland for that? What's the time on June 25th?
is it at 7, Shannon?
I think we said that this one might be at 6:30.
Yeah, I can. It's Thursday.
Yeah, this one's gonna start at 6:30.
All right, go ahead when you're ready, Megan.
Okay, thank you. Next, I have an update on the decarbonization roadmap. This is, as you recall, we got a technical assistance grant from the state to do this effort. They really took all of our data from our green communities reporting and reported it back in a roadmap for how we can lower carbon emissions in our municipal buildings that are the highest producing. I have received feedback from this committee, and I have received feedback from staff and others. And so that has been sent to Power Options, who's putting this together for us. And I have a meeting with them on the 1st to review what has been incorporated. I am working with the select board to have this on their agenda in June. And tomorrow I'm going to be reaching out to the school committee to see if I can get on their agenda for June, because this is the last piece we need to be considered a climate leader. And they have a deadline at the end of the fiscal year. And if we become a climate leader, there's so many different kind of things you have to do. You have to have adopted the specialized stretch code. You need to have a electric vehicle policy. There's a number of other things that we all have. So this is the last one. And then we can become a climate leader, which unlocks some grant opportunities. One of them is up to $1 million on decarbonization efforts on municipal buildings. And of course, as we're looking at our municipal buildings, that grant could be handy as we are looking at recommendations from the land use working group, as we're looking at efficiency across the organization, finding a way to be a competitive grant applicant for that is definitely a priority. So that work continues. I have the climate. Oh, sure, Fran.
Yeah, I just wanted to follow up and see if there's any way that we could get involved to help you with that, or to encourage any more specific follow-up items. I think the report is good, and I understand what you're saying about how it gets us moving.
Yep.
But we also have buildings in there, individual buildings. So I'm thinking Alcott School, for instance, where there's been some discussion some years ago, and there's I'll be mentioning Alcott in the context of a possible thermal energy network concept in Concord. And so it seems to me each of these buildings that's on that list, there's sort of a time frame identified. And I'm just wondering, are we actually getting the people responsible for each of those buildings to kind of develop a Gantt chart of milestones to get those, to make sure we don't buy any more boilers that we don't need?
I would say this roadmap is pretty high level. As you saw, Fran, it doesn't get into the systems across the buildings. And to do that, we have been exploring an ESCO partnership. At one point we were looking at last year doing a request for qualifications with one of the major firms to do this work, and working with finance to see how it would plug in, to our capital efforts. But with kind of still kind of thinking about the future of some of our municipal buildings and the consideration of potential municipal consolidation, looking at, the useful life of some, I'm thinking, with public safety and public works, a blanket ESCO system hasn't been identified as the best choice. So we are looking to work with Power Options. We're following. We would enter into a natural gas contract with them, and we're following the rates for that to see when it's the best time to enter into a contract. I think we'd be looking to partner with the schools to do that. Bob, the assistant superintendent, has shared that before at some public meetings, how we've been in touch and are looking to join forces to do a more technical analysis on the buildings to get support for when it's kind of time to turn over equipment. So I don't think, while this is kind of a roadmap, it is a roadmap, that's what it's called. This is a roadmap. It's not kind of the master, not the, the deep dive plan on the buildings. And I think it's a starting point, but I wouldn't say, we can come up with a detail, I think it's just that it's a starting point.
Maybe what you're saying is that it's the climate plan update that we're working on now that maybe needs to include something specific that says each building is going to need to identify how it's going to comply with that roadmap, or how it's going to decarbonize at whatever point new equipment is needed. What we need to do is come up with a system that, so nobody's in an individual building not thinking about the roadmap says, well, I'm just going to replace this boiler plant here or this chiller plant. And then all of a sudden we get partway down that and they realize it's not consistent with the roadmap. We need to operationalize it. And I understand maybe one ESCO for everything when you're trying to move all these buildings around. But at the same time, the decisions when somebody says this is going to be the new building configuration, that's the moment when some engineers need to be thinking about the HVAC and the climate goals in the same breath, so they don't end up saying, well, sorry, we moved all our offices into this building, but we forgot and it's fossil fuel heated.
I
So-
agree with you. And I think before the breaking point is really when you want to get ahead of it. So you can say,
Yeah.
okay, it looks like you have another 5 years on this. Let's think about the financing. Let's think about how this is going to work. Within the existing systems to make a significant improvement that works for emissions, works, budget wise, looking at it from a multiple pronged effort. So yeah, I agree with you. I think there's more work to be done here. I think the Climate Action Resilience Plan is a good place to identify the top priorities. I think that the roadmap is a tool, but it's not the total answer for this. So we'll have to be thinking about how to put the pieces together.
Maybe when you come back next month on the same topic, we could talk more about whether Power Options has a consultant or whether there's an ESCO or how exactly we are going to operationalize it.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I'll touch base with the chair about that.
For the benefit of people who haven't been at each of our recent meetings, an ESCO is an acronym. It's Energy Services Corporation. Company.
I think so.
Do you have more for us, Megan?
Yes, sorry, I'm going a little over time. I think, and then, Shannon will touch base on the Climate Action Resilience Plan, which is also in the report. Obviously, that's a significant priority for our team and our partners with you as Climate Action Committee. I listed a few other things in there, things that are going on. The MCI planning effort, master planning effort, is going to have a charrette next month. It's an intensive planning week. And so I just want to make sure everyone knows about it because it's a really good opportunity to interface with the consultants and talk about priorities. I did personally send this new consultant team the letter that the committee wrote last year, along with the other committees in town that have worked on kind of high level recommendations for this effort. So they have that information. I think we all have talked a little bit about the transportation strategy. I just want to make sure that's getting the attention. I know we're talking about that later in the meeting too. But that plan is a great read, and I think public comment period might have closed today, but just making sure that's all on your radar. The Climate and Conservation Coffee is another regular opportunity to connect with folks in town. They just started doing a pilot email series. So if people want to sign up, I put the link in here to kind of get updates. They're trying that out through the summer. So if people want to, kind of get on board there, that's available.
Sorry, where is? I didn't.
Oh, it's.
Oh, I see. It's back. It's farther back. I've got it. Thank you.
Okay.
Could we actually pause for a moment? I want to. Shelley had some concerns about the MCI Concord events and ensuring that we had representation at those events. I think it would be good if over the course of those 4 days, we have a solid plan to have most of the members of our committee be participating.
What are the dates that?
So it's Monday the 8th, Tuesday the 9th, Wednesday the 10th, Thursday the 11th. The 8th is an opening session, the 11th is a final presentation that is going to recap all of the stuff that has happened over the 3 foregoing days. The 9th of June. And the 9th and 10th are 2 open studio times. You go in, you see their presentation materials, there's some level of a feedback loop where you provide feedback and then they synthesize what the members of the public are coming in and saying. So I think it would be a good policy for all of us to be trying to get there for multiple of these days.
Should mention there was a really good presentation at the library maybe a week and a half ago by, what was the name of the guy?
Jeff Speck.
Just marvelous how how we explained their goals for a walkable city. And it's on, I think it's on YouTube.
Yeah.
Everybody should watch that. It's really good. You should.
Put that link to that YouTube into the minutes for us. Make it an action item.
If you go, I think it might be on the MCI webpage too, which I have linked. But yeah, Minuteman Media is a good place to find it.
So can we all kind of decide that we're gonna pop in at one or more of these and just
Yeah.
hope we never run into each other in the forum? I also think it's really important that somebody is there for the whole presentation on Thursday, the 11th. I cannot be there.
What time is that presentation?
The presentation,
Yeah,
5:45 to 7:30.
yeah, I can be there. On Thursday.
So maybe we'll work out offline who can be responsible for ensuring there's coverage there. And maybe Shelley can do it. We can all volunteer Shelley to do it. Because she's the one that had this concern, and now she's not here. So Shelley, you're doing it. Great, okay, did you have a little bit more, Megan?
You know, I think when it comes to the MCI master planning effort, there is a committee that has been appointed by the select board. They have met a couple times and I think are working on their kind of regular meeting cadence. But of course, they're open to the public and you can attend. You can watch the recordings afterwards, and that's also, or glance over the minutes, is a good way to stay in tune with this effort. There's also going to be regular updates at select board meetings from the MCI master planning group. The plan, I think, is to have that closer to the top of the meeting. So if people want to tune into that, it's another opportunity to get plugged in on what's going on. And the last two things I just pulled up this event, it might be on the events list from the library, that's a native planting event that looks really interesting. And then finally a water quality and drought update that was posted on our website, and just examples of how there are, as I joke about the Civic Concord podcast, where every podcast episode is a sustainability episode. There are efforts that are happening across the organization that I'm hoping to highlight in this format so that folks can see how we're trying to integrate the last climate action plan and eventually the update into our daily work. So thank you very much.
And as of at least this morning, you're actually able to pick up a hard copy of that water quality report in the little cubby downstairs as you exit the building. Bob, you had something?
Yeah, I have not been following MCI, but I'm wondering whether there was any consideration to set up bylaws, ecological sustainability bylaws for any of the developers to follow that underlies everything that's done out there, such as recycling programs, saving and synergies between entities there for mutual benefit. I've been involved in eco-industrial parks up in New Hampshire where they had that type of bylaw, where they're all restricted in what they can do within this industrial area. I don't know if they've thought about doing that type of thing.
I would say the stage that they're at right now is before any type of kind of bylaw discussion. The goal of this effort is to land on zoning and trying to understand what the community wants to see there, what the state as a property owner is comfortable having there, what will turn enough of a profit to fund the remediation, and trying to match all of that. So I think I think those elements will come into the conversation at some point. But I think they are a little bit earlier, but it's never too soon to raise that, I think, and have those conversations. And I think at the planning charrette, that might be a good
There's an expert
way
in town who's
to
talking.
share that viewpoint.
People may know Peter Lowett. I don't know if you guys know him in town.
Yeah,
He
it's
was
true.
on the MCI advisory
Oh,
board.
terrific, good. He's involved, great. He's really
He
one of
lives
the,
on it.
He was on the first iteration of committees for MCI Concord, but put it this way, he was in attendance at the master plan committee meeting too, and I think
but he is.
will
the
continue
expert.
to remain involved as a
He
resident.
did it at Fort Devens too.
Yes.
When they redeveloped Fort Devens, he
Yeah.
was behind all those good concepts. So that's great that he was.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Megan noted that today's the last day to comment on the transportation strategy. Should we comment?
Yes, and there's somebody right here, can hear your comment, the incoming chair of TAC is here.
I mean, I thought it was totally outstanding, so I don't know whether I had a move that we send in a comment saying we approve it, or what you think would be constructive.
That's lovely, but we'd rather have, suggestions for improvement. Those better, but rather than good job, it's good job, we don't have anything. I mean, really, it's about how do we align, I just finished sending out a bunch of comments to you guys. So it's like, where do you see climate metrics to be put in, like, greenhouse gases, I mean, we don't know that stuff as well as you guys do.
It's reducing vehicle miles traveled.
I know that,
Yeah, you got a lot of that in there.
maybe it's not, but if you could take, anybody can take a look at it, I know it's today. Midnight,
I did send many
that's
comments,
fine.
but that was on my own behalf and not on the committee's behalf. And definitely, I think the thing that we should do as their draft moves forward is to ensure that Weston and Sampson get any substantive updates or second drafts or new iterations. As you make improvements of that plan, we're also on a separate track, starting our stuff, and we're gonna be trying to keep those tracks in
When I
alignment.
looked at your plan and I looked at our plan, there's tremendous synergy.
And we're gonna need to
Tremendous.
ensure that at every time we make changes, that we keep the synergy. That's the one concern that I have, is making sure that we're very intentionally letting each other know when we've got substantive
This
updates.
is the committee, this is like the dream for committees.
Yeah.
That we actually apply for.
Great. Are we ready to move on? All right, next item on the agenda item number five, presentation from others out front on Vision Zero. This is pages 14 through 37 in your.
Still like sitting there, I feel rude with my back to everybody.
Remember to talk nice and loud for the.
I will be loud, and I just need to share my screen, right? And I guess I need to, hold on. Let me go back one more time. Oh, great. I just need that IGs. Okay, great. Is that big enough for everybody to see? It seems like it's on the bottom. Oh, it's because everyone's faces are up there.
You want me to pull the participant tab down?
Do whatever. No, I wanna keep the participant tab there.
Okay. All right, great. So I'm Linda Neiman. I live on Mallard Drive. I'm one of the coordinators of Mothers Out Front. And we've been working for the last couple of years to improve, to make it easier for families and residents to choose walking or biking rather than driving, and to make it safer so that they can do it. So thank you Brad for putting me on the agenda. First, what is Vision Zero? The goal of Vision Zero is to eliminate serious injuries and fatalities from traffic crashes. And then I pulled this nice quote off from the Vision Zero Network site, where it says, Vision Zero is not a slogan, not a tagline, not even just a program. It is a fundamentally different way to approach traffic safety. And so this Vision Zero integrates very nicely with Concord's Climate Action and Resilience Plan, and also the newly published transportation strategy draft that we have. And I'd like to talk about how they synergize, as I was saying earlier. I don't have to tell this group that 40% of Concord's greenhouse gas emissions is from vehicles, and the majority of that is from passenger vehicles. And so because of that, the Climate Action and Resilience Plan in the mobility section has the goal of giving everyone access to zero carbon transportation options to commute and get around Concord. And it has ambitious targets of doubling the number of public transit commuters, doubling the number of walking commuters, and tripling the biking commuters. And so how does this tie into the transportation strategy draft that was just published? It is a really good read. I recommend people to read it. It is 94 pages, so I will, give some highlights here. The top line is that the current travel patterns do not align with the town's goals to reduce motor vehicle dependence. And their key findings are that 45% of trips are within town, so it's like perfect setup for walking and biking. And of those, 75% are on average 2 miles, 25% or less than 1 mile. Again, like perfect setup for walking and biking. And of those folks, 70% would prefer to walk over driving. So how can we get people to walk if all the conditions are there? And so, as Brad said, there was this great talk by Jeff Speck, and I will, for those of you, I don't know if any of you attended the talk, but Jeff Speck is a world-renowned urban planner, and his design team, Spec Dempsey, is working with Stantec, who did our transportation strategy report on the NCI conference site. So they have a lot of experience in this area, so I don't think I can say it better than Jeff Speck, so I just have a small snippet of his video that hopefully will play. Hey, I think if I do this. How do I get it to play from here? How do I do this?
And I know this because I went to your website.
Oh,
It's,
it's because there's feedback.
yes, try to press play now.
Now the sound will come out. So maybe can you mute yourself? I guess we have to mute this thingy temporarily. Is that too much work? This is what I get for trying to be, trying to mix it up.
Creative.
Yeah, trying to be creative.
That's pretty good at video.
Give it a go. All right, here we go.
Which
There's no volume at home, just so folks know.
All right,
Here we go. I'm sorry.
I'm guessing that the hand from Pamela is that you couldn't hear the video. When the minutes of this meeting are going out, we'll have the link to that same video, the whole talk, available for you. So that'll be the way to cure that. But we heard it in the room and we're gonna move on. Go ahead, Linda.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. It didn't work out.
Yeah, sorry about that. It's live theater here.
Yeah, so basically I'll summarize that he said that a great neighborhood or town is a walkable neighborhood, and the components of a great neighborhood are these four items: a reason to walk, a safe walk, a comfortable walk, and an interesting walk. And he spent most of his time talking about safety, because without a safe walk, none of the other components matter. And so safety is a huge barrier to walking. And if you ask any of your neighbors why they don't walk or bike more, many of them will say because they don't feel safe. And for a good reason. Concord has had a lot of unfortunate crashes in our town last year. Even when you feel safe, for example, we had a family of 3 on the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail that was struck by a car that came onto the rail trail. We also had a mother who was running, was struck by a car while in her neighborhood while on a sidewalk. And of course, we always have bicyclists that are hit by vehicles. The most recent was just a few weeks ago that I know of. Let me move to the next slide. And so Mothers Out Front really got involved in this 2 years ago when a new Concord resident, Tamar Vishlisky, was killed in a crosswalk just outside of our town borders, in a crosswalk on Route 62 on the Reformatory Branch Trail. It really impacted us deeply. It really scared us and scared us for our kids. And then a few months later, another mother in Bedford was killed on that same road, just a little bit farther east. And I know everyone's gonna say, oh, well, that's Bedford. You know, these things happen in Acton, Bedford, but not Concord. But we use the same roads, we have the same conditions, and we really should be seeing what happens in our neighboring towns as a warning to Concord. So this is why Mothers Out Front is advocating for a Vision Zero policy in our town, so we can really elevate safety as a priority. And what is vision? How do you implement Vision Zero? Vision Zero is based on what's called a safe systems approach, and safe systems approach has these 6 key points. The first is that death and serious injuries are absolutely unacceptable. Number 2, humans make mistakes, and we need to design roadways to take that into account. And that humans are vulnerable, especially those that are not surrounded by thousands of pounds of metal. Responsibility is shared in that shared space, and that safety is proactive, meaning we shouldn't wait till someone's hurt before we make any changes. And redundancy is crucial to the safety plan. And this type of thinking with these approaches is not just about transportation. This type of thinking and thought process is used in other areas, for example, in the medical field, in the airline industry. And I'll give a quick example in the medical field. If a nurse gives a patient the wrong drug and that patient dies, then you would want to blame that nurse for making a mistake. But if you notice it keeps happening again and again, then you start thinking across different nurses, then you start thinking, well, maybe if there's something about that situation, and you start having to look upstream and look at the systems, look how the systems approach. And as a result, some critical medications have different size pills, different colors, different labels, and there's redundant systems in place. So these lapses in human judgment, or just because people are tired, doesn't result in a tragedy. So we'd like to apply that same kind of thinking and planning process to transportation. And that's what Vision Zero does. And so how does it compare to traditional approach versus Vision Zero? So I mentioned how a traditional approach, and you still hear this nowadays, and even the news, when you hear about a terrible crash, it's often called an accident, a one-off. You know, it's just like kind of a freak of nature, or this is the price you pay for living in a modern society. But that's Vision Zero says that that's preventable. We know how to prevent it, and that we should design systems to account for human failings. And then another big thing that Vision Zero does differently from the traditional approach is it views saving lives as not expensive. Like currently, you know, when you talk about safety, folks are like, oh, it's going to cost so much money. This infrastructure that we have to do, it's going to be millions of dollars just to put in a stoplight. However, we know that saving lives is not, you can save lives by not using multi-million dollars. It doesn't have to be expensive. You can use phones, paint, flex posts, cement blocks, planters, traffic calming. There's a lot of different ways to do it that are inexpensive. Not to say that there aren't expensive things to do as well, but there's a whole distribution of actions that can be taken. And so, great, are other towns doing that? And the answer is yes, a lot of them are in Massachusetts. Some of them are our peer communities like Brookline, Lexington, and they've been doing it for a while. For example, Somerville has a Vision Zero policy since 2017. And since there's so many communities doing this, we can learn from them. And what about the sources of funding and other like more organizations? So as I mentioned before, Stantec, that did our transportation strategy report. In their report, they mentioned that Concord could adopt a Vision Zero policy in their strategy section. And then Spec Dempsey, Jeff Speck, they have worked with Stantec to create Vision Zero action plans in other towns. MassDOT has a Vision Zero primer. Boston Regional NPO has a Vision Zero roadmap. And all of these have their own guidelines like NACDO, which is the National Association of City Transportation Officials, and also the Federal Highway Administration. So it's not like it's a unique and uncommon thing. It's really well accepted as the latest thinking in transportation design. Common questions are, well, where are we going to get funding for this? Well, there's a lot of sources of funding for safety. Some of them are exclusive to Vision Zero, but not all. But having a Vision Zero framework in place is extremely helpful. And for residents, I would like to think that most residents would appreciate having safer sidewalks and streets, so their kids could bike and walk to school and to their playground, and their parents don't have to schlep them everywhere. So, yeah.
Does Vision Zero basically say that there should be sidewalks everywhere that people might want to walk or anything like that?
I think that, I mean, I don't know if it's like has to be sidewalks everywhere. I think they allow it has enough flexibility that each community can do what they feel is best, but they have definite guidelines. It's a little bit like complete streets. Like if you're going to do complete streets, you'd have to see if you can put sidewalks in, if you can put bike lanes in, there are check boxes. But it's flexible enough that, there are situations where, you can't move like whole buildings out of the way. So here I have up the Massachusetts Safety Action Planning Primer, and it includes a workflow, a multi-step process for towns to follow. And the first step is leadership commitment and goal setting. And so that's why we're here. And this is why we're asking the town to adopt a Vision Zero policy. So quickly in summary, climate goals require more walking and biking. And we need to remove barriers by making it safe and easy so people can choose to do so when they're able. And that's why we're asking the Climate Action Committee to support our petition. Thank you.
Would you please go back to the list of cities and towns that have already adopted this?
Sure.
And are there data from any of these towns showing progress on the central goal of reducing serious injury and fatality?
Yes, because that is the central goal. Part of the process is to do, so I talked to the mobility person in Somerville about their Vision Zero plan. And so basically the approach is to do an experiment, for example, measure how fast cars are going before they do any type of road treatment. And then they measure after the road treatment, and they have like solid data of whether or not the thing that they're applying is actually working. And in most cases, they do find it does slow cars. For example, if they put speed humps out, they do find it does slow cars quite a bit, but only within a 50 foot or so distance from the speed hump. So that might mean you have to do multiple, or maybe it's not appropriate. And the other thing that they found that was really interesting was in some cases they decided to put a double yellow line down the road, and they found it actually made drivers feel more comfortable, and so they drove faster. So they would not have known that if they wouldn't have done that before and after a test. But they have, every year they produce a report, and it shows all the different metrics for biking, walking, public transportation, and they show the map of where people have been hurt too.
And specifically in one or more of these Massachusetts communities, we're seeing progress, not just in Vision Zero across the planet.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I would just note, I was talking to Ms. Quackenbush last week after our public session. I said, there are plenty of car drivers that don't know how to avoid hitting pedestrians. Which was something that they gave me a little pushback on, and I'd note to everybody, on Monday night, I was walking my kid to T-ball practice at Rideout from our house on Main Street. And as we were crossing in front of West Concord Pharmacy in a crosswalk, a driver taking a left-hand turn off of Main Street into the plaza would have hit us if I hadn't lifted my kid by his left arm and dodged out of the way of the truck. He could not stop in time before an incursion into the crosswalk. We were missed by a foot. Go ahead.
So Lynn and I talked a lot about this. Most of what's in Vision Zero is in our strategy plan. I think the things that are missing are a really good software tracking system. We don't have that. And to be honest, traffic manager. You know, a lot of what Vision Zero does is going to require, most of these towns, if they have like a staff, right, 3 or 5, we have to know that. We have TAC, who's 7 volunteers, and Public Works that's down a few people. So what I guess humbly I would like to do is to, you know, Public Works, TAC, you know, bicyclists, somebody's up front, present to the select board and do it as a package. Like, we need money and we need a transportation manager, and you gotta fund it. Because I worry about a plan, we have a plan, and it's true, as Stantec said, we really need safety framework. And Vision Zero would be a great one to have, and a lot of people have already done it. And the fact that, MCI Concord kind of said the same thing, Jeff Speck, right, they said the same thing, but Vision Zero would be a good idea.
Mhm.
So I think it's an agreement, I think it's kind of, I would not want to go into this without the level of staffing that most of the other Vision Zero towns have, and we have 0.
And that is a substantive difference from even some of the smaller comparable towns that we might.
Less
do
condensed
this.
mobility, wonderful traffic manager, and it was amazing. I wish we had that.
Don't suppose you know offhand whether Newburyport and Weymouth have similar staff?
Oh, I don't know, I
Yeah.
might know that.
I would presume that they do.
Yes.
What about the police department? Aren't they involved in tracking where incidents are?
You know, one of the problems that, yeah.
Do they have
What
somebody?
it says is really, we have a traffic, like, we have one person run full signal, who's the
Yeah.
safety officer.
And certainly we have crash data and we have access to it because the state tracks it and they have nice, like a high injury traffic fatality, like dashboard, and they have all that data, but that requires some sort of citation, right? And so there's a lack of community feedback, because in that case, you have to wait till someone has been hit. Otherwise, it's not entered into the system. And I'm really grateful that they have that, but also, you know, when I talked to the person in Somerville who directs their Vision Zero plan, he was saying they spend a lot of time having conversations with the residents who know the area best. And where are the sticky spots that, you know, like the one that you talked about, Brad. And certainly on Upland, they have areas where they've been talking for years and years about the cut through and the dangerous and things that they've seen in their own neighborhoods. But, you know, it takes someone to get hit before it's reported, unfortunately.
Nice and loud for us, please.
Okay, so, we have from Stantec a list of 120 low-cost safety project, Upland and Pine Street are 2. And so, and we also, I mean, I think 100%, who wants to wait till somebody gets hurt?
Right.
It should be predictive. Anyone go down, go down Old Marlboro Road and say it's not a racetrack. So one idea, because there's like, you don't set speed limits, nobody pays attention. You make the road difficult to drive fast on. You know, little roundabouts, speed bumps, or, you know, little kind of curvy places. That's what Stantec is advising us to do, and I think I'm just beginning, but I think that's what we want to do, because you don't want to rely, because speed limits do not make any difference. The way speed limits are typically set, you track what somebody's speed is, this is what was done in the sixties, instead of getting 80%. So you're just rewarding bad behavior, want to change the sign of the roads.
Yeah, and I think the main point is, I mean, it's a little bit chicken before the egg, you know, like funding or, you know, staff members before we adopt this policy, but unless you make it a priority in town, those things are not gonna happen. It has to be a priority.
So what is the document or statement or slide or something that you're asking us to vote on tonight?
I'm asking the Climate Action Committee to vote to support the Vision Zero policy, for the town to adopt a Vision Zero policy. And that's it. Unless you want to do more, and I'd be happy for that.
So I think the one thing that we should definitely consider, regardless of where we come down on Vision Zero, is it is a named thing in the transportation plan, in the draft plan, that one of their actions shall be to get this transportation director hired, and for a significant portion of that person's work to be focused on safety and interfacing with the public. And it would make sense in my mind to ensure that our climate action plan is also calling for that position to be created and filled. Additionally, we should probably ensure in our plan that we're calling for an appropriate level of engineering and other staff. I know that there are vacant positions right now.
There are actually 3 vacancies, like, Alan Cathcart's leaving in days, and Aaron Plosky is gonna be acting, but there's 2 junior engineers going, so Steve Dupin is engineering.
This is a situation that really should not ever be.
Yeah, it's just a poor guy's.
This is a level of people being vacant at the same time, positions being vacant at the same time, that should really not happen. And so again, thinking about how can we be operationalizing best practices, it doesn't just involve buildings, it also involves management of our governance. And really trying to ensure that all of the things that need to be working in town to keep making progress on this stuff are systematically cared for. And so I think in our mobility sections of our plan, it would be wise not just to call for that position to be created and filled, but also to ensure that there is some kind of systematized process for ensuring that we don't get these huge gaps in staffing.
Oh, I don't think do that.
I think that there,
People better.
I think we don't need in our plan to come up with that solution. We need in our plan to say, let's think about that policy. So I would encourage us to be serious about that in our plan. I do think that it would be nice to hear a motion on Vision Zero, however, I'd say that I'm fully persuaded. Streets are for people.
Yeah, me too. I support the committee advocating for adopting Vision Zero for sure.
Okay.
I'm trying to see if I could formulate in my thinking, what would be a more specific way that we could say that?
Well, there are a few
Is
different
it the
things that we
select
could
board
do.
that we're speaking to, if we say that, we think they should do it, or is it some other town? Or are we just making a general statement?
There are a few different things that we could do, and it's really up to the wisdom of the membership of the committee. So we can we've got 2 members of the select board here, one in the room and one on the Zoom. We can turn to them and say, this is God's work and do it. We can pass a motion to officially endorse this. We could write our own letter. We could memorialize somebody to write a letter supporting this. We could resolve individually to sign this, or as a committee to sign this petition that Mothers Out Front shared with us in our meeting packet. So it's really up to now the 6 of us to figure out how we want to express our feelings on this subject. And without a motion, we can just talk about that. If somebody wants to make a motion to suggest a certain path, they're in order to do that.
Do you have that petition in a form you could put it on the screen? I'm just trying to find it. I didn't.
Have a QR code you could scan onto your phone.
I'm just gonna stop share so people don't have to.
Was it at the before your slides?
I didn't see it.
I didn't see it. I didn't see it.
So the QR code here, scan this on your phone and we can see the
Alright,
petition. Can you pass that?
let's turn around.
Okay. Just pass it to Fran. Here you go.
This is, my concern about this first bullet. If safety is the top priority. We know that how complex transportation is. And everything, from the rail that comes through our town, the ride share program. To Google Maps putting people through Strawberry Hill Road, I mean, there's just a million. And I'm just concerned that if. I mean, believe everybody can't stand the way the road, I mean, people drive so fast. I mean, I walk my dog every day, so I mean, run over,
Yeah,
I really do. I mean, on Lowell Road, they're zooming 60 miles an hour, I'm sure.
it's terrible and it is complicated. I'm not lying, I'm not gonna say it's not, but we also can't not do anything because it's complicated.
No, go ahead.
I don't mind saying anything, I mean, I do think the vision zero intent is good, but I agree with you very much. I think there's a lot of priorities that have to be, you have to have a systems approach. And, you know, safety, when you're on a bike or when you're walking, safety is critical. You know, I think, and no one would disagree with that, but to make it the only priority in my mind is difficult as a chair of TAC. I think that you have to have a systems approach and look at everything. I don't think anybody, in fact, safety is we have $27 million. We don't need money. We have $2.5 million for safety specifically. And when we do a road, safety is one of the concerns. You know, nobody wants to put a double line down Conant Street. No, because it doesn't push people drive fast. So we do have the mindset of having safety be embedded in all the engineering work that's going on. Alan Cathcart was concerned about having safety be the only, level priority, because sometimes there are other things about ADA accessibility or access for public transit where it's safety plus.
Well, to be clear, because these words matter. Under this approach, safety would be the top concern, the top priority, but not an exclusive priority, correct?
Right, yeah, and it's a safe systems approach. It's not just about walkers or pedestrians and not just about bikers. It's about everyone, including ADA accessibility.
All I'm
It
saying
includes
is
all of
Alan
that and
Cathcart.
public transport.
Alan Cathcart, your current chair of Public Works, was concerned about.
So if we were to ask Director Cathcart, what is the top priority right now?
Composting.
Obviously. Obviously, what would his answer likely be?
Safety is number one, but it's accessibility. It's connectivity, it's multi-mode access by people to. The public ways in town, but it's also safety is complex in the sense that it's food safety, it's. Cars drive out, bicycles drive out, pedestrians, so sometimes safety is a multi-variable equation, it's not just one. I'm not being articulate, I think that it is a top concern, it's not the only concern, and I can't give you a good example of it.
I don't have the transportation strategy document in front of me, but it includes a recommendation for this policy.
It includes there'd be a safety framework. And there'd be a transportation manager, it's probably mentioned 3 places in 100+ pages, it's not.
Good, I mean, what I'm asking is, I guess, could we say we're adopting the language in this petition and noting that it's already embedded in a transportation document that we
It's like saying
can refer to?
the only criteria is greenhouse gases when maybe biodiversity is also a climate goal. maybe that's the best analogy I can give you, but I can't give you a good one on transportation.
So it's
I'm
on,
sorry.
for those of folks that are listening that wanna look, it is on page 56 of the transportation strategy draft. Under their strategy section, it's the second paragraph, it says Concord could adopt a planning framework such as Vision Zero, which would help satisfy application requirements and unlock funding to improve safety at high crash locations, such as Monument Square.
Well, you don't need the money. I can't tell you, you get $27.5 million. So
Right.
money is not a concern. I think it's the systems thinking
Right.
and including safety for bicyclists, pedestrians as I would say, everyone would say non-negotiable when you're, crossing the road with your kid.
I would suggest that I think that there's an important difference between saying in a planning document, we could do a certain thing and using Vision Zero as source material for some suggestions. And actually going the step of saying,
You should.
this is our top priority, is safety, and there needs to be measurable improvement in the way that we are addressing safety issues. I think that there's a distinction there, and I think in my mind, I think it makes sense for this committee to be on the side of the things that are going to get people feeling comfortable walking and biking in town. And that means a greater emphasis on safety, even if safety is the top priority of many top priorities. I'm not sure that I think that that's good enough. I think that we should ask for Vision Zero.
Yeah, I'm with that. I would move that we support the petition. I don't think it adds that much value for us to write a separate letter with our own reinvented reasons. We should advocate for the town to do it and fund it appropriately.
And specifically, we would be advocating that by encouraging the select board to adopt it as policy.
Yeah. I guess so.
Does the chair hear a second for that motion?
Second.
Discussion? Bob, you seem as if you're a little uncomfortable.
I'm
with this.
hesitant because I'm thinking about, let's say somebody wants to put a high-speed electric train in on Sunday. How is that gonna be viewed from a safety standpoint? I am no expert in this, but I think that, maybe that'll be risky from a safety standpoint. But is it beneficial to have a high-speed train coming from Reading down to Boston? I think it would be, but again, I'm a little concerned and how safety is analyzed. I'm not an expert on safety and how it affects these decisions on transportation.
Well, I will, to make you feel any better, the experts are saying that Vision Zero is the way to go. Just Beck, the planner, the one that's like number 10 of the most influential planners of all time, in his book recommends towns to adopt Vision Zero.
My only concern is it's unfunded. So it's, you've got, do this, it must be funded with staff. We don't have money for asphalt and concrete and roads and signs and, putting in sidewalks when they're not sidewalks. We don't have money right now for transportation manager, and I would hate to have this voted in and then have it fail because it's not so.
You look like you're on the verge of saying something.
As a liaison member to the select board, I'm gonna speak for myself because I can't speak for the board, but I would recommend that if you're going to promulgate a petition up to us requesting action on our part, that you give us some sense of how it dovetails with your mandate, with the climate action mandate. I mean, that would help us to understand how safety and carbon reduction or other requirements that they dovetail and they become it becomes a synergistic benefit. So that would just be helpful to us, not just like, oh, we like this idea and we're just a random committee who happens to like this idea. That there's some
Right.
interaction between your charter and why you want to promote this to us. So that's all, that's kind of, that'd be my request, and, as I said, I can't speak for the committee, but that would just be my comment.
Right, so the way I see it is this transportation, which is a part of the climate action plan, is difficult. It's difficult to monitor it, and having someone, is it a full-time person or not, I don't know. Be able to help us with metrics on transportation. How many people are walking and biking, and what accident rates and stuff like that would be helpful. Is that part of their job description? I assume that
Kind of morphing a little bit from Vision Zero, which is safety, to
Right.
having a traffic manager and paying that person to get metrics and give them.
Yeah.
to you guys. I'm just trying to understand the conversation kind of shifting a little bit.
I mean, Vision Zero is goodness. I mean, I think anyone's gonna disagree with that.
Right.
Is it, I would say that the traffic strategy has virtually all of it already in there. So it's not new from my perspective of what I read, what I know so far. It's aspirational, it's not on the side of it. And again, my concern is that those sort of sector goes for top down. And that it's not funded and staffed.
Yeah.
So we have no one to do the metrics, we have no one to do the hard work of MCI.
Right, and we had that a
So
little
that's
bit
the
in
problem.
a few years ago, we had that for a little while, and it became kind of to try a couple of things, and that they didn't last, and we don't,
What?
we had a transportation person.
Okay, I think Vision Zero won't work with that transportation person, I guess I'll have one. It won't work. That's sanitation management.
On the funding side, I just want to say, I think that so many towns climate side have implemented this in the areas because it gives you better access to SS4A federal funding. And they have not hyperbolically around $1 billion left in grant funding available this year, so.
But the grant deadline's over.
But as I said,
For
for
this cycle.
I think the grant is probably not for staff member, I'm sorry, I'm being repetitive. What we need is a staff member. Senior level, level of Alyssa, Sandra Rock, Alan Cathcart, transportation manager. With that, it probably would work. Without that, we'll have Sandtech and we'll have our plan, but we won't necessarily have all the metrics that you want. And I can't say it won't, it's just, it needs to be funded, really, it needs to be staffed. And you can vote, whatever you vote is fine, it's not gonna change the transportation strategy approach, or the tax approach.
I just think our update that we're working on now should take this as a important lesson that we need systematic policies in town that will meet whatever it is we say the climate plan is. But part of that is gonna have to include making it safe for people to get out of their cars. And so part of that is gonna need to be policies and staffing for transportation that we can say fit well within trying to reduce emissions. And I'm just not sure whether we're prepared to put that in a motion right now, that would be helpful to the select board. But I certainly think the town ought to have a policy like this and the staffing necessary to implement it.
So one of the things that we're doing next year is the Lowell Regional Transportation Association is working with us to have a trial of a bus. Okay, it's gonna roll around town. Public transit is a pure play, reduce greenhouse gas, especially for electric greenhouse gases. And that's kind of, that's an attack approach, it's not a safety approach. It's a get people out of cars approach.
To put a fine point on the nexus to climate work. Our posture has been that the town will fail to meet its emission reduction goals unless vehicle miles traveled in town are reduced significantly. And the way that you accomplish that, one of the tools in the toolbox to accomplish that is getting bikers and pedestrians, or I should say prospective bikers and pedestrians, feeling as if the transportation network is safe. And we've seen a lot of data about biking in town, where there are people who would bike if only they could feel safer doing it, and they do. So they will not bike, and they will be in the cars, adding to the problem. And the same is true for pedestrians, although I don't believe we have data to back that up, but we intuitively know it to be true. So we can certainly put that in a letter if we can monkey with our motion a little bit, so that is plain as mud.
That's all I put on the table is find some, nexus, as you put it, between your charge and the goal of Vision Zero. And then if you're gonna make a recommendation to the select board, as long as there's a consistency there or overlap, that's fine. I mean, I'm just suggesting that would be a more powerful statement to us rather than, oh, we think this is a good idea, so let's just act. That's all.
So, Fran, part responsive to what you're saying, yeah, I think, we haven't had the deliberative process working through the draft actions on our plan revision to say, we're gonna set it as a goal to hire the transportation director, we're gonna set it as a goal to do one particular safety paradigm over another. I'm okay with taking action now to this effect, notwithstanding that. Because I think that we can decide that that's where we're gonna land right now.
Sort of like,
Yeah, that's how I feel about it.
yeah, okay, for
We may want to withdraw the motion and actually do a letter though.
Okay.
And, I don't feel like we need a letter, but I'll take the bullet on that and I'll draft a letter.
Okay.
So could we formally withdraw that and change it?
I'm withdrawing just sign the petition. And proposing that we write a letter.
Okay, and what will the scope of that letter be? Will it be support Vision Zero or support Vision Zero and the staffing needed to make it succeed?
The letter.
Okay,
yes,
second?
yes.
You second?
Second.
Further discussion? I know you're still uncomfortable with this.
I kind of hear that it's in the plan already, though, too, safety's in the plan, that's all. I mean, who isn't supportive of safety? That's like a no-brainer, so I'll vote for it. But I get it's about prioritization, so.
Paul, you've been silent through this. Do you have anything that you want to ask or add before we move toward a vote?
No, but I appreciate the presentation. And obviously, these are all good
You're
ideas.
talking, but we're not hearing you. Give us a moment.
Really? Okay.
The speaker should be working.
No, I appreciate the presentation and it all
He's
makes
not
perfect
muted,
sense.
and he's trying
Can
to talk.
someone else like Megan or Laura try to talk just so we can make sure it's not the speaker?
Can you
I
hear
can
me?
hear- Yeah, I can hear Paul.
Yeah, we can hear Paul at
Yeah,
home.
the problem is we can't hear Paul in this room, so.
It's coming out of my computer. Can
Uh,
you talk again? Can someone talk again?
That's gonna echo.
Okay, all right, I'm gonna turn off mine and now try. Anyone talking?
Paul said he supports this
He's
concept.
trying to talk.
Maybe
Yeah.
I say, it was Paul.
Can we just put it on my?
He said he supports it.
Okay.
I support this.
All right. Further discussion? Okay, we'd be in line then for a vote, so the motion is to support Vision Zero to write a letter to the select board saying that we support it and the funding the staffing necessary to make it succeed
We support it as a town policy.
as a town policy. That was my understanding of the motion. Was that your intent?
Yes.
Yeah, so then the only other operative issue is, am I being memorialized to write the letter, or are we gonna come back and look at the draft?
You can.
I can write the letter, so that's the motion, everybody understand? Okay, Paul, when we call roll, you're gonna need to type in the chat again, cause we can't hear you. So we're lined for a vote, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye, those opposed, no. Brad Hubbard Nelson,
Aye.
Bob Shat.
Aye.
Fran, Shelley, and Paul says aye, chair says aye, it passes unanimously. I'll write the letter and send it off to our friends at the select board.
I just noticed Catherine is online.
Oh,
Catherine, you're a co-host now if you wanna unmute.
Hi, yeah, sorry, my
can't hear her.
conflict ended. Can you hear me?
Catherine, I think Catherine, so people on the
Yeah.
call, I believe, can hear you, but we in the room cannot hear you.
Okay.
So can you say what you're saying in the chat, please? And we'll pause briefly for her to say that.
If you turn off your mic, I can turn on my speaker and then you can hear.
Well, Linda, what if you just get offline, would that shift it back to everybody else?
Because it should.
Okay, I'll do it.
Now that we've seen the
I'm
presentation.
not sharing.
I don't think,
So Catherine, I appreciate that you said that you support the motion. We procedurally, we closed the vote before we could take your vote, but we'll do you want us to move reconsideration, or are you satisfied? You can abstain. Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you, Linda.
Thank you.
So I'm sorry to report we're quite behind schedule now. Before we move on with our agenda, can I get a sense of the meeting of whether we want to continue with this agenda through to as late as 9 o'clock, or do we want to cap it now and push the rest of our agenda to our next meeting, which would be on June 10th?
What's the next meeting?
The next meeting would be June 10th, second Wednesday of June, in this room at 7 o'clock. So Brad's saying he would rather push to 9. Anybody else have an opinion?
What's left on the agenda?
We want to debrief the public workshop. We want to do Fran's bit on ground source heat pumps and thermal energy districts. We want to give the public a chance to comment on anything that isn't printed on the agenda.
We certainly want to include that, right? Public comment.
We would.
I'm happy to push through.
Okay. Any dissenters? If anybody has a strong objection, raise your hand. Seeing no hands raised on the Zoom or here, we'll keep going. So next item on the agenda is agenda item number 6, climate action and resilience plan public workshop debrief. Shannon, do you want to kick us off and tell us where we stand with Weston and Sampson?
yeah, so thanks to a few of the members who started attending the stakeholder interviews. Those are gonna be ongoing through June, the rest of those. Now we're also just looking ahead, we're gonna be having the same workshop, but essentially virtually next Thursday. That will be all on Zoom from 7 to 8:30. Cassidy will be giving the same presentation that she gave at the first workshop. And then we will be doing some breakout rooms that had some, I will say, light facilitation from committee members during those discussions, but the questions she gave everyone, I would say about 5 questions, also with maybe 5 categories. So I would just say that you're able to let the discussion flow naturally during those. We will be looking for some committee members to do that again at the virtual meeting. But if you came to the first one, you already sort of know what to expect at that.
Where were those, the interviews, did you send us an email about those?
Yeah,
Okay, sorry.
That's okay. So the ones that we did were the Transportation Advisory Committee and Trails Committee. We did the light plan staff and a light board member. And then we also did DPW staff and a DPW member. And then we also had one of the first with a business owner. And Fran, I think you attended that.
When you say
Yes.
DPW member, you mean a Public Works Commissioner?
We had, yeah, Andrea
Okay,
attended, yeah, but there was also several DPW staff members and Paul attended that one. So the ones that we have outstanding are both school groups that we were able, Megan and I met with Becky Meeks from CCHS. And we talked about the public school group a little more. I know we had discussed targeting the quarterly school sustainability meeting, but we talked about it more and felt like that maybe wasn't the right venue, and they have like a pretty specific agenda about curriculum coming up at their next one. So Becky told us about a Sunrise and Green Team meeting that's upcoming next Wednesday that Brad and Shelley were already planning to attend. We passed that invitation along to Catherine as well, because that's still under a quorum. And Cassidy is gonna be able to attend that, along with Dr. Hunter is also confirmed to attend.
And do you feel that that gets all of the most necessary stakeholders there, or are there other people that we would really be ideally looping in?
I think Megan also passed along to Dr. Hunter if she wanted to invite a school committee member or members, that was appropriate, and if they would like to attend, I think that would be good too, but
That would be good.
yeah, otherwise, I think that is probably a solid group, and I know Becky said that the students would be really excited to talk with Weston and Sampson in this sort of forum. So I think that would be good, and then that leaves sort of the private schools, the planning and zoning group, and the land group, which included like the ag committee and natural resources, left to finalize the scheduling of those.
Great.
Oh, and lastly, the Climate Action Committee advocacy group led stakeholder interview.
Yeah, so I didn't make it to the Thursday thing, maybe I assume everybody else did.
Not everybody did, so we had, I believe, I would refer you to the minutes of it that I haven't written yet.
Right,
We have 4 of us there, and there were many members of various town boards present, which was excellent.
yeah,
There were not very many people to speak of from what you would think of when you're thinking of the public, which are people who are not volunteer board members, right? Or staff. So I think that for me, that was a point of disappointment, and it made me wish that we had publicized in the broader community better. And so I wanted to take a moment tonight to effectuate a plan for in the next week. How can we push out some email blasts and get on some message boards and let people know this is coming next Thursday on Zoom at 7 o'clock, and you should show up if you care about the planet, not Melbourne. So I had a few ideas that I would just like to throw out there and get the respective people's responses to. Could we put this front page as a news flash on the town website?
I would say we can do that.
A front page, not, you have to scroll to it.
I'm gonna ask, but I think we can do that.
Could we send out a news blast on the Cooler Concord listserv?
we could, I don't think that gets very many non-fire people, but yeah, so that needs to go out in the next few days.
Could we each individually as committee members resolve to think about our next door neighbor and our friends and other people in our social circles to push this out to.
I think the neighborhood email lists. Of which aren't formal, but they're like, there's a Nurse Mac neighbor list and one in our area and different parts of town that might be. They don't like to be bugged about stuff that they're not interested in
Do
necessarily.
you think Janet would bug the nurse people?
Janet has whenever anyone wants to be elected to public office, they use Janet's list. So there you go.
Could you ask Janet?
Why don't
for
you
us?
send it to me? And why don't you put it next door neighbor, next door? Right,
Yeah, next door, so I give.
that's hopefully that's advertisement, that actually is a public service announcement, people might appreciate it.
Yeah, so one of us would have to do it on Nextdoor.
I can,
You wanna take that on?
So Red, send whatever announcement.
Yeah, we'll send the flyer to you, yeah. Thank you. And what about the bridge? Should we post it as an event on the bridge website? It won't get into the paper in time, but it can be up on the website for anybody that looks at those. Shall I do that? Okay,
live in Concord if you're gonna do that, that's another,
what is it now?
live in Concord.
Oh, yes, yeah, I can do that too. I'm subscribed on that, I believe. And I had already given you a soft ask on this, Linda. Could Mothers Out Front send an email blast to the Concord chapter members?
We already did.
You did, I didn't get it.
You're on our list, I don't know why, I will check.
Check my spam folder, thank you. And should we go the step of printing out some flyers and posting them places? There's already one up at the Fowler Library. But I don't believe we put them in hard copy form on any other boards in town.
That's not gonna get too many people, but we get somebody.
Thursday.
Conservation coffee list,
Yeah, put it on that.
the conservation coffee list.
Would they be willing to do that?
I think Delia manages that, right? Yeah, I can reach out to Delia to see if she can do that. Yeah.
Yeah, awesome, thank you, good suggestion. Yeah, so how would we get our hands on, Shannon, would you also be able to print nice looking flyers for me to post on bulletin boards and stuff? Yeah, and I can pick them up like tomorrow. Okay.
How many would you like?
How many boards are there in town? 15?
How about the kids in high school? The compost kids.
I would love to put them to work, but that would take us like a few days to get them in hand and get it over to them. I'd rather just put it up myself.
No, man, they're.
Yeah, I'm gonna get to her.
Their attendance, you mean, trying to get them to attend?
Yeah, parents.
Yeah, I'll send a message to Becky to see if she can get a message out to the groups too. I know she said it's a really busy time of year with their school and activities and sports and stuff, but it'd be great for them to attend.
I think if you advertise free pizza, everybody's gonna be coming, because they're gonna try to figure out how you
Free
get
pizza on
that.
Zoom.
Yeah.
All right, Catherine, we tried something different with the microphones. Unmute yourself and we'll see if we can hear you now.
Can you hear me?
Still can't hear you, no.
bummer.
Sorry.
Okay.
Can you put it in the chat and we'll keep trying to work on
So
that.
could we have the PTG send out a notice in their newsletter or see if there can be a special sustainability notice?
How would we go about doing that?
It would have to be a blast, it's too late to put in the newsletters.
Shelley says it's too late for the newsletters, but maybe a blast.
Who would be responsible for looking into that?
I don't do that.
Okay, thank you.
Shelley's gonna look into it.
Great.
You're whispering next to me.
This is gonna be a fun 20 minutes if
Oh,
that's the
yeah.
way we're doing it.
It's the outlet, yeah.
Okay, do we feel good about that as a publicity plan? And we'll see if it works. But I think, this will also turnout at this will also instruct our next wave of public workshops where I would really be hoping that we have better attendance.
Yeah. I thought, since I didn't go, I don't know what was shown or what the,
Then come to the Zoom next Thursday.
every Thursday.
Are we gonna record it? Watch the recording after, you'll see. It's a very nice presentation. It's similar to what you saw in April from Weston and Sampson in terms of scope of reviewing how we've done.
Okay,
Is it complete? Is it much of the way there, but still ongoing? Is it some of the way there and we really should have done better? Or is it like, we really didn't do that much? And breaking that down quantitatively, but also giving us some live examples.
right,
And then we had some very good breakout groups that Weston and Sampson are going to attempt to synthesize for us by next meeting.
Good.
After the 28th, and then they're gonna be made on June 10th, by synthesizing.
Set to the hour.
It was working before.
Yeah, can, like, Megan or Catherine, does someone wanna try one more time? I just pressed another button.
How's
Can you
it
hear me?
working now?
Yes.
We're
Yeah,
back.
okay, sorry about
Hey.
that.
Public comment might happen tonight. All right, next item on the, I'm sorry, are we done with this? Can we move on? Great. Next item on the agenda, agenda item number 7. Ground source heat pumps and thermal energy districts. And Fran, I just want to note it's 8:45, so if we can get like a condensed version, please.
Right. So I circulated a little memo, and I'm proposing that in the update, we talk about ground source heat pumps explicitly and thermal energy networks, neither of which were really mentioned, except in a very brief indirect aside, one spot of the previous, either 2020 plan. So to some extent, when I talk to people about this, they say, this is obvious, why are you giving me a harangue about ground source heat pumps and thermal energy networks? Other people say, oh, that sounds very expensive and scary and new, and we don't really need to deal with that because everybody can just stick an air source heat pump like a mini split, and we're all doing that, and so why isn't that fine? And that is fine, but there are some reasons why both ground source and thermal energy networks ought to be priorities for us going forward. And a lot of these have to do with the load shapes. So I put on the screen the language I had in the memo about trying to craft what would we actually put in the plan. So I tried to sort of, create inserts. This is where you put it, this is what you'd say. And I don't think we need to wordsmith those things. But here's a picture of what I think the hourly electric demand is for different kinds of heat pumps. And the ones that have the big steep shape is an air source heat pump. It's the blue on the top. And their biggest peak is in early morning when you get up, and you should forget it in terms of great heat pumps, right? You shouldn't be futzing with the thermostat all the time. But nevertheless, that's when it's been cold all night, and then tends to be the highest peak. So if you add thermal energy storage, you get a little, or maybe it's I guess the jump down there in that green line is if you hold on to your gas system and run it for 50 hours a year or so, when the temperature is something like 5 degrees or below, that doesn't help you retire or prune the gas system, but it does cut the impact on the electric system significantly. But if the next line down is sort of gray, that's if instead of a boiler, you use a thermal energy storage system. So it's actually even better. And then you can combine those two. those are all that sort of spaghetti at the top of the chart. At the bottom of the chart is what happens if you just go with a ground source heat pump or you connect to a thermal energy network. And that's where, as people know, the ground is 50 degrees all the time down there, and so you're not trying to heat your house when it's 0 out, which heat pumps will do, but they're very inefficient for that at that moment. So my pitch is that our electric system in town will have to start investing money in updating distribution systems and buying more capacity and transmission and more expensive energy from the grid. If we just continue to expand our adoption of heat pumps, air source heat pumps, which I'm all for doing, but pretty soon it would be great if we could get people to start building more ground source heat pumps. And if we could begin to. So here are 4 places in town where I think you could establish a thermal energy network over the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years. And one of them is in the center of Concord. There's also the West Concord area, which could be the MCI area or Baker Street, or there's a lot of different sort of ways of thinking about West Concord. There's a bunch of buildings on Virginia Road near Hanscom Field, which could represent a little.
You're talking about the kind of like commercial buildings that are over there?
Yes.
I'm saying the wrong word, the office buildings.
Office, yes.
Yeah.
Yep. And Emerson Hospital and some other things right around Emerson Hospital would be a 4th place. And there may be others, of course, and you could do it in residential neighborhoods. But thermal energy networks would take a lot of planning and it would cost some money. That money could be spent by either an ESCO, we referred to the acronym ESCO earlier. There are energy companies which could build and own the piping system, or the light plant could get into that business and do it, or National Grid could do it. And so if you were Alcott School, you could, instead of having a compressor outside and a heating system, the other part of your air heat pump system inside, you don't need the outside compressor, just connect with the thermal network. And so it would be easier for customers to do that. And there are all these various benefits. So I could talk for a long time about the details of all this, but I think it might be a little obvious that this would be desirable. And the questions come down to, well, how could you incentivize this stuff? Would you stop incentivizing air source heat pumps at some point? An option there would be you could just incentivize a thermal energy storage system to go with it. There are a lot of other issues we could talk about, but I want to make sure that as we do this update process, there's a stake in the ground somewhere to try to include the kind of language that I put in the memo or other policies, and we could certainly spend time drilling into them, and I'd love to do that some other time.
So, yeah, I've been thinking we want to get our feet wet with probably a relative, not a whole downtown network, but something that's small enough so that we learn a lot, so that MCI, we have learned already before doing that.
What does the Middlesex School have? Somebody said they have a ground source heat
They
pump.
have a ground source heat pump.
But how many buildings? How many buildings are covered?
A few buildings.
Well, so that's a pretty good example, isn't it? I mean,
No,
it's not big enough.
no, this town has a municipal electric utility that
Yeah.
isn't involved at middle, we have to figure out what sort of business arrangement makes sense to run a district heating and cooling system.
Gotcha.
So we could drill down into what that would look like, and I'd be all for getting that started tomorrow instead of waiting till we finish the update and then everyone looks at the update and they say, my gosh, here's a an action in the update, so let's do it now. But on the screen now is, I don't know if people can see it, it's a little small. But that's just a a scenario of evolving from all air source mostly at the present time to over time, much more ground source and energy network.
The only thing that gives me pause about this is, are we gonna have tension or friction with CMLP over this kind of policy change?
I think not, because if you look at those ramps,
And with
that would make it a lot easier for them. For example, that's what it looks as if it would cost CMLP to serve this load. If some of it was air source heat pumps, it's about, you know, $30–40 million each by the 2050. But it would be, so that would cost about $110 million. It would be a lot more than that if we didn't try to prioritize ground source and thermal energy networks. It could be twice that. So I think the light plant would appreciate the load shapes of this stuff. And it's also possible that with nice flat load shapes like that, there's so much electricity being sold in the sort of cheap times of day that you could possibly even bring electric rates down a little. But if we just sort of keep promoting air source heat pumps and don't make a special point about these alternatives, it's gonna get very expensive. And as electric rates go up, it's gonna be even harder to get people to think that air source heat pumps are affordable, especially if they're on gas. So there's a kind of a loop here. We've got to get off of air source heat pumps in order to keep electricity from being too expensive for air source heat pumps.
Yeah, so we're gonna go to Catherine next, and while Catherine's talking, Ms. Scott, if you are thinking about formulating any kind of response to that analysis, I'd love to hear from you after Catherine, and if you have nothing to say, that's fine too. Catherine, go ahead.
Yes, I just want to say first and foremost, I'm very supportive of this, and I agree with all the points already shared. I'd love to see an analysis if it's in there around operating costs in terms of just like utility bills after, because I think a lot of it's focused on the CapEx and sort of the initial upfront costs, and there's a lot of sticker shock and feeling like it's not feasible, but to the point around higher electricity bills and just operating costs, and then also just lifetime of service. So just like utilities are trying to put electric lines underground for resilience and adaptation, I want to kind of underscore that as also a part with this geothermal, since it's sort of underground. You don't have outdoor units and things that can kind of go wrong. I mean, obviously there's always places where it can go wrong, but that there's, I think, a longer lifespan of the unit of the technology, and it's a little bit more protected since it's underground. And then the last thing I would say is I think the market dynamics are changing, at least at the federal level, with kind of blockades to solar and wind. There's actual federal support for geothermal just largely, and there are a lot of businesses coming online. I think one just had an IPO yesterday or today that's doing this technology. So I think it's really going to accelerate, and the economics are going to shift to be more favorable as well.
Yeah.
So to be clear, Fran, what you would like for the outcome of this conversation to be is that we're sort of resolving informally to set this as a goal in plan, have actions around it. And then is the idea that we're basically piloting this once and seeing where it goes, or is there a sort of a shape of the next 5 years that you're hoping this takes?
I think if we're enthusiastic, I could do a little more detailed thinking about sort of what the steps might be, but I do think that Alcott School jumps to the front of the line as a place where we could begin to say, what if Alcott School was an anchor for a thermal energy network around it? And it could go to the high school and the BD Center in one direction, it could go to Concord Academy in another direction. There's an awful lot of town buildings down there. There's commercial and residential buildings and nonprofits and churches. And so I think it would take some management planning. But if we, as a town, said this is a direction we wanna get started on, so that we're not late getting, this is gonna take time, so you have to start early, right? I think we could start to identify what it would look like and start speaking with the relevant parties, which would include the schools and other building owners and National Grid and the light plant. And potentially, you could turn to Power Options and say, do they have a vendor that they would suggest we explore, some of the roles? You could begin to do some financial analysis of how this would be structured. There's a lot of things you could begin to do, and lay out a management plan, a project management plan to get started.
We do have a grant of technical assistance from MAPC to work on this. It's been backburnered while we do our climate action plan.
For me, it makes a lot of sense to do this because at some point, going house by house to do retrofits and heat pump solutions, especially, if it's an air source heat pump solution or even a solar installation, that becomes the cost of doing these things house by house becomes too great, and we're going to get diminishing returns.
Yes.
And so
This isn't gonna
then
work.
the way to think about both retiring the gas system, which also needs to be happening, and getting more homes electrified needs to shift from a house by house, building by building strategy to a neighborhood by neighborhood strategy. That's the place that longer term
Yes,
we need
yes.
to be getting to.
Yes, and that should be an action in and of itself someplace in here.
I've got no problem with this. I was sort of assuming we'd already be doing this as part of our
Yeah,
plan.
it's
So-
already in was already in the parking lot. I don't know if it's risen to the top, this support.
So it's
I mean, I
not,
do think one element of this is that we ought to identify this as a priority. So there's a million things in our 2020 plan, and there's a million new ideas we've had since then. And Megan keeps saying, we need priorities, and she's right. In order to manage something, you have to, and I think this is one of the priorities. That if we just keep sort of encouraging air source heat pumps, you can't do that for very long before you start to run into a problem with too many of them and not enough time left to plan the rest of this. So I'm looking for a sense that we can identify this as one of the priorities when we get to that exercise.
so Paul, I see that you've come on screen. I'm assuming that means you want to talk, but I want to go to Laura first. I also want to just name for everybody, it's 9 o'clock right now. Go ahead, Laura. Ms. Scott, I'm sorry.
Yes, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So I wanted to just give some praise about this study. I think it was a really great analysis that tried to incorporate a lot of different components of costs and benefits. And what I want to agree wholeheartedly with is looking at the total cost to serve, which is not just the cost to the customer directly through utility bills or their capital investment, say in a ground source heat pump, but also the cost through the community-owned light plant, right? Because we're a not-for-profit, we're owned by the customers, and so our costs are your costs. And if it's going to cost us 3 times as much to serve an air source heat pump than it is a ground source, well, we need to take those costs into account because they do ultimately flow to customers, right? And so I think Fran has talked about including those costs, and the load shape that he described, I agree wholeheartedly with, is an important component when we try to decide what should we be incentivizing at the moment. What is the most cost-effective climate solution? We need to look at the comprehensive costs. I will just note, I think I've mentioned to this committee before, we need to stay in lockstep with reality. As we decommission oil and natural gas heating, we are putting more and more strain on the electric grid in the winter. And this is a problem because we don't currently have enough natural gas to provide electricity on the coldest days of the year, particularly for multiple cold days in a row. And until we get substantially more wind or small modular nuclear reactors become a reality, we don't have a solution to serve a greatly electrified heating need in this region. And so we just need to keep that in mind as you think about how quickly we can electrify space heating and cooling.
Paul, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to thank Fran for this analysis. This is sort of long-term thinking we need to have done. Otherwise, we're going to get boxed in. And this is a, perfect example of being locked into these air source heat pumps. So thank you, Fran. And I also agree with the comments of Laura.
So I have heard during this discussion, broad agreement, there may be some detail work that needs to happen. There may be some caution that needs to be built in, but I'm not hearing any dissent from anybody. Does anyone want to express a dissenting opinion or any concerns?
I wanted to ask Fran, for the data you showed, could you put a source on, are those your calculations or are they somebody else's?
It's a mix of things, but yeah, I can source it, yeah.
I want to commend Fran for such a nice, clear presentation on the options. And the only question on how do we allow for innovation that may change our choices that are available.
Well, if cold fusion happens,
No,
that changes the conversation.
No,
We could blow up our
For
plant.
example, if solar panel efficiencies jump dramatically, which sometimes we read about that. You do read about it in the literature, like China has some big breakthrough on panels. And then all of a sudden, community solar may be a more viable solution for supply that affects the economics. That's all I'm saying is, we should. There's always a debate.
It doesn't affect home heating. It just-
No, I know, let's spend time with the air source heat pump, that's, what if the green hydrogen comes off, the price drops like a rock, and all of a sudden there's some nice hydrogen furnace we can get for our home. I don't know, maybe for what.
You want to start blowing up people's basements.
But I'm just saying, I like some acknowledgement of there's innovation in the future.
Right, and this is innovation. What
This
he's
is.
proposing is innovation.
Yes, no, fully supportive of it.
Yeah, but we should we should make a plan today for what's gonna happen in 2050 without any flexibility.
That's all I'm
So,
saying.
yeah.
With the project you've been talking about that goes right by those community housings might be a good, that's the kind of the type of populations served that maybe an MVP grant could help with the plan or some other,
Yep, there's housing authority property right there.
right. So I'm all for it. I can't wait to start working on.
So it seems to me that we don't need to have a motion on this, that we've got sort of consensus on this, and we should just ensure that this is effectively communicated to Weston and Sampson to build into our action set and our priorities. Are you satisfied that you've heard what you need to hear to communicate that?
Yeah, I would like to get your slides too.
Okay,
I
yeah,
just had the write up and things.
Yeah,
The slides would be good.
bunch of stuff I didn't show, which I can include.
Okay. Thanks.
I mean, I think there are things we can do more or less right away, partly, that was why I mentioned the interest in what power options next step might be in that roadmap and the idea of contractors, and as town buildings are reconfigured, that's another opportunity, because that may turn out to create a load in a place. So I think there's a lot we can do, and I appreciate everyone's feedback tonight.
Excellent. Just because I don't think we need a motion doesn't mean that one wouldn't be in order. Does anybody want to make any motions? Hearing none, we'll move on. Next item on the agenda is public comment. Ideally, this is comment on items that were not printed on the agenda. Do any of our folks on the Zoom or in the room have anything to say? Hearing none, we would be, I see a hand and now the hand's gone.
You have to give people a minute
Yeah.
to get organized.
Ms. Dritt, if you do want to say anything, now would be the time.
Okay.
I see, yes, I see your hand, she needs to be co-hosted.
I just
Right.
promoted her.
Go ahead, you're unmuted.
Thank you, Pamela Dritt, 13 Concord Green. I think one of the problems is that getting to the place we want to end up, we need to have a pathway to do that. And if what we want to end up is all electric, which is true, fossil fuel free, then we have to, the light plant is the place where we have to put in the incentives. We don't need to worry about what power we have to get from outside if we properly incentivize local homeowners to install solar and batteries. Even if we don't do ground source heat pumps, enough of a distributed grid, it's all out in Here Comes the Sun's book by that the league had a nice book group, League of Women Voters today. Bill McKibben's book, Here Comes the Sun. Right now, wind, solar, and battery can produce superpower without the need for hydrogen, without the need for nuclear reactions at all. In fact, it's cheaper to produce electricity with wind, solar, and battery than it is for any other source of power, including hydropower. So we need to nudge private investment to go that way. In our town of Concord, we can end up without having to buy any outside energy. In fact, we can turn the town of Concord into an energy supplier to the surrounding communities and use it to to ease property taxes, like some schools are doing. If we make the right kinds of investments and structure it economically to incentivize the right action.
Thank you. Any other public comments? I can see Linda Neiman's already got her safety vest on. That's her comment. So Chair would smile favorably upon a motion to adjourn to meet next Thursday at 7 p.m. on Zoom only for a public workshop, and reminding everybody that we meet in person next on June 10th, not June 17th. Is chair a motion?
I second.
Discussion, hearing none. All those in favor of adjourning to meet next Thursday at 7 p.m. signify by saying aye. Opposed no. The ayes have it. We are adjourned.